All right, we are here today with a very special guest, and this is a special edition of Inside Cultivation. We're going to deep dive into leadership. But I have to say, what you're going to be exposed to today is not the normal fluff that you see in leadership books. In fact, the information that is contained here and we're going to share with you today, a lot of it came out of the intelligence community, stuff that has never been taught to us. Our parents didn't teach it to us. Schools didn't teach it to us. However, this information will make your personal life better, your business life better, and your social life better for both men and women. Chris, welcome to the show today.
I'm excited to be here. It's very fun. So I think the thing we should say right off the top so people kind of understand is I wrote these books over almost a 5-year period.
Oh boy.
But a big part of the content that's in these books is our weekly get-togethers. And so I was constantly bouncing this content off of you.
Yes, you were.
And that, you know, pushed me in a lot of ways. It's unique to have a friend like you that is curious about the same things. Yeah. And we, I mean, the thing we always come back to is like, if we would have known this stuff 20 years ago.
Oh my God. The choices and decisions that we would have made our life would have been a hell of a lot smoother than what it was. But that being said, I don't regret anything that happened to me in the past because it all led us to what's happening today.
True.
So
and we're very lucky today.
We are. We're very fortunate. We came out of the meat grinders semi-hold and put the pieces together, and we want to share it with everybody.
One other thing too that we did is we outlined this thing that we've always wanted to put out in the world together called Melon Cracker.
Yeah.
And the idea of Melon Cracker is something you came up with, and I don't know, we've outlined it a couple times.
Yes.
But a lot of that content is in these in a sense. But the thing we want to do today is we want to go into some of that. And, you know, by the end of this, our hope is that people have a little bit of a roadmap into how to take control of their lives back and how to be more authentic.
Yeah.
And if you're more authentic and you're in control, not much can stop you. It is, you know, it is weaponization in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, this book of yours, I Am Leader, and what we're going to teach today will weaponize you. You will never, once you understand these concepts, you will never, ever look at the world the same. We've put all our upper management through it, middle managers, and our sales team through it. And I got to tell you, when there's a seminar also that people can attend, when they did the seminar, I got phone calls from the guys. Some of them said, after I left, I had to pull over, and I just had to think for 2 or 3 hours to process the information that they received. It's that profound. So let's get into it. You mentioned your younger self. If you had to go back right now and talk to your younger self, what would you say to him?
How long of a conversation can I have? Like, am I spending the day with myself?
just the basic points, that the biggest takeaways.
I would go through I Am.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think for a long time, growing up the way that I did. So I grew up a missionary's kid.
Yep.
In the church. And I was a white kid in Mexico.
Okay.
I never quite fit in. I didn't fit in America either because I was a poor missionary kid wearing donated clothes, and I just never felt like I fit in wherever I went. You know, there's a lot of self-esteem issues.
Yeah.
There's a certain feeling of loneliness and learned helplessness. And the thing that happens when you feel that is you start to externalize control to outside forces. And so you start to think that fate isn't on your side. You start to think that you're not lucky. You know, there's just a bunch of things that come into your mind in that scenario that are poison. Like they keep you from living an authentic, fulfilled life in many ways. And so I would go right at that. Like I would say, listen, like here's just a couple things that you need to pay attention to that will just make everything a straighter line. And then I do think, and I don't know how you feel about this ultimately, but we've talked about it before, is I feel like, you know, the reason why I'm as successful as I am financially is more because I'm running from something, trying to prove something.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember calling me out? We were just talking one
high
day.
performance trauma.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I just want, let's just say, I said, well, I really want to get to $200,000 a month in free cash flow or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, do you remember not that long ago you said if you just got to 20? And now it's
right.
200, and then it's a million.
We keep moving the goalposts, which is another thing that you know. And we should enjoy our successes as we go along,
but thinking unconsciously that that's going to make me happy.
Yeah,
in a sense. And there's nothing wrong with making money, but what is, you know, detrimental to having a fulfilled life is thinking that will make you fit in, that will make you a better person, more likable.
That's
and
right.
It doesn't matter if you have money or you don't have money. You know, how you feel about yourself and your self-esteem probably matter more. Yeah. We know a lot of people that have money that have very low self-esteem.
That's right. And you're chasing acceptance and
consumerism.
Yeah.
You know, the Gucci bag doesn't make you more important, or the car or the house or whatever it is.
It's all, and we'll talk about internal and external locus of control. But when was the time that you realized that it was more important to be successful about what you think and what you do, rather than the external locus of control with others, that you realized? When was that turning point when you realized, hey, I got to look at myself?
There was a experience I had with my grandfather. So I didn't have, you know, my dad left when I was 2 months, and my stepdad left when I was 13. So by the time I was 13, I'd had two dads leave.
Yeah.
And so after my stepdad left, I kind of just made this conscious decision. Like, it was very conscious that I was going to look at my grandfather as my father figure. And, you know, being raised by a single mom, the hard thing with that is moms try to play both sides, but they're good at being moms. They're not good at being dads. But, you know, my mom tried, and she worked really hard at it. But I decided that my grandfather would be like my male role model, or my father. And I was like 29, and I was making a lot of money. I was running a big car dealership with 400 and something employees. I was really important. I had a big house, and my grandfather was kind of on the end of a run with cancer. So he was going to die, you know. And I invited him down for Christmas. We flew in, you know, family for Christmas, and I took him to work one day, and I really wanted, like, I had in my head that I wanted him to be proud of me and see how successful I was before he died. And that was really more about me than it was about him, now in hindsight, right? Sure. Like, I wanted this approval. I wanted some sort of validation. Yeah. And he's sitting in my office, and, you know, I'm thinking that he's going to be impressed by all the power I have and whatever it is. And he wasn't. And all he cared about was what time did I get to work? And, you know, was I working hard? Like, to him, you know, the thing he would always say to me when I was a kid is, if somebody pays you $4 an hour and you give them $8 worth of value, you'll always be in demand. That was like the thing he lived by, is like hard work. You know, he came out of the Depression and that sort of thing. But when he died, I never had that validation. I know, you know, it was never like, a conversation where he was proud of me, which was the thing that I was looking for. And in that, and, you know, kind of wrestling with that and dealing with that, I think that that is kind of the time where I realized that I was a little out of sync with, you know, looking for the approval and validation from somebody else to make me whole, or to, you know, that it was inside, it wasn't external, that only I could validate myself in a way. And any sort of outside validation wouldn't mean anything anyways, because really, and the thing that, you know, we've learned over time is most people are acting or doing things for the approval of others, for acceptance, for belonging, right? So even if I was knighted by somebody else as being important or whatever, it really would be for their benefit, not for mine, in a sense, right? And so that's when, like, I started to really think about that in a, like, hey, you have to validate yourself. And so if you're going to validate yourself, maybe you should be the person you want to be versus the person that you think other people want you to be to get their approval.
The mask.
Yeah. The mask.
Very, 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 very interesting. And I also want to add that anyone who's in the cannabis space that came out of the traditional market, today's lessons are going to be extremely important for them. From my own perspective, I can look back when I was younger. You know, the company's been going for 26 years. I realize now that there are things, and I could have done a lot better and would have moved the company a lot further, faster, that I was actually part of the problem and I was also part of the solution. And so let's talk about that today. How can, I mean, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I always, you know, been a lifelong learner, and I would go and learn, but I just realized that I was missing some kind of information. I don't know what the hell it was, but I knew I was missing it. So I went here looking for it, there looking for it, there, all over the frickin' place, until one day some bad stuff happened in the company, and I had to go. And I was already looking at myself, but that moment made me realize that, hey, you need to take a really deep look at yourself. And in doing so, I was able to fill that void. And this is what we're talking about today. How to fill that void, that thinking that you're not enough, and that you're seeking validation, approval. And it all goes back, as we found out, to self-esteem. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about internal and external locus of control, so people understand what that is, because for me, that was the biggest game changer. I don't know about for you.
Yeah. So, and also, like, I don't know if you've shared on here kind of your experience, but one thing about your experience that always, you know, what was fascinating to me is when you were growing and you were trying to be invisible, what that does to somebody, in a sense, right? Like you're
breaking the law. You're on the run. You want everyone who's done this out of traditional market
can't trust anybody.
Can't trust anyone. You want to be invisible.
Can't even trust like a girlfriend.
Yeah, and so it puts you in makes you hyper independent, and doesn't make you so you want to collaborate and connect with people. And that's the biggest thing that I learned is once this opened up, that I was no longer hyper independent. I collaborate with people. I connect deeper with people now. It's a whole different world.
Yeah. But the behavioral cascades from that later on are you know, it's something you worked through.
Yeah. Still working, by the way. Still.
Oh, yeah.
We're
yeah.
a work in progress.
So, also, I think we should tell everybody like how much we actually spend on learning. Like, people would be blown away to understand the amount of money. And like, I don't know, for me personally, it's in the millions.
Yeah.
Millions. One year I spent $500,000 on learning, going to things or hiring people. The other thing that you and I both do is, like, if there's somebody that's an expert, we will just pay them to sit in a room with us.
We will hunt them down. We will talk them into it.
Whatever the number is.
And either fly out to them or they fly out to us and we talk to them.
Most of the time, too, what's surprising is we're the first ones to ever ask them that.
Yeah.
Like, we just want you to sit in a room and we're going to have questions.
That's right.
And we just want to ask you questions.
And these are people who had the answers that we were looking for. No bullshit, no nothing. Just tell us the real deal. And they did. And this is the culmination of
But people would be blown away to you know, know how much we search that out, and the stuff that just the training that we've had, and like you mentioned before, like kind of always having that feeling that there's something else out there that we don't understand.
Yeah, and we found it. We found what it was.
And then,
boy, was it
just
ever.
Talk a little bit about when you find it, how hard it cracks your foundation, because when you find out like kind of these secrets to human behavior, what happens invariably is you see yourself.
That's it.
And that like when you realize that everybody has a mask and everybody's walking around trying to gain approval and acceptance. When you realize that you also are doing that, it kind of cracks your reality. And there is I don't know, my mourning probably lasted about a year where I really struggled with, well, why does it matter then? Like, it's a hard thing to get your head around.
You go through the 5 stages of loss, and what you're losing is your old personality, the one that didn't serve you, and now you're integrating your shadow into the whole mix, and everything gets better. But in the beginning, you're going to cry. It's going to be emotional.
Yeah. So then to the kind of secret. So if I was going back and telling myself as a kid, like the first thing I would talk about is locus of control. And so locus of control is something that was kind of figured out in the 60s, where Dr. Rotter was studying personality. And he discovered that different personalities had either an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. So external locus of control means that the person, and you might want to get a pen and paper for this.
This is a writer-downer.
Yeah, you might want to take some notes.
That's right.
An external locus of control is somebody who externalizes control to outside forces for the things that happen in their life. So, for example, somebody, does a presentation and they don't get the deal or they don't get the sale or whatever. They externalize control to, I'm not lucky. They externalize control to, it's the market. They externalize control to, those people are idiots and they don't know what they're doing. But they or God doesn't want to bless me or whatever it is. The most common externalizations of control are to God. Like the stuff that God gets blamed for is incredible. I'm sure someday if we ever meet him or her,
that's right,
it'll be a funny conversation. But God, and then fate, luck, government, parents, on and on. But people externalize control, which then invariably, if you're externalizing control, it puts you in a situation where you're always reactive because nothing is in your control. You live a life that's reactive where you feel like you're not in control, and it leads to depression. It leads to fatalism. It's, it can be very, very negative. It also leads to low status, underperformance, isolation, all of that. And on the flip side of that, there's people that in their personality, they have an internal locus of control, which just simply put is they own responsibility for everything that happens in their life.
This is important. Everything, bad and good. So when we go back and we look at all the things that went wrong in our life, we had a part to play in that. Whether we were just naive, vulnerable, whatever, we had a gap in our knowledge, and we have to fix it.
Yeah, I have a tool that I use and I teach is trace it back to birth. Like, let's say you're in a neighborhood and you get mugged.
Yes.
So if you're going to own responsibility for that and you trace it back, probably the mistake was, or the birth of that was when you decided to go to that neighborhood.
Correct.
And that just happens in, any situation that is undesirable for you, that the outcome wasn't what you had hoped for and anticipated. If you trace it back to birth, you can usually figure out where you made a mistake. And the mistake usually is you didn't do enough research, you weren't intentional enough about it, you didn't get advice, whatever it is. But there's always something you could have done
Sure.
in that. My kind of coming out party for this was when I went through my divorce.
Yeah.
And she'd had a boyfriend. She'd kind of cheated on me. She had done some weird stuff with money. There were all these things that she did that if I explained that to anybody, they'd be like, oh, she was a terrible person. You got taken advantage of. But what happened for me is in the depression of realizing I was going through a divorce and it, hitting me pretty hard, I just decided to sit down with a legal pad and write out all the things that I could have done different to have, create a different outcome. And my thinking was I didn't want to go into another relationship and have this happen again.
Yeah.
It was a protection mechanism. And I wrote out 2 sheets of like all the things that I had done to contribute to that. And by the end of that exercise, I would have made the case that I would have left me too.
Yeah.
And
because there's things that we do that we're not self-aware. I want to talk about being self-aware
you
later
become
on.
self-aware when
Yes.
you take responsibility because you're forced to.
Internal locus of control forces you to become self-aware. And we talk about the melon cracker as taking someone from a place where they're not self-aware to where they are self-aware. That's what that's all about. And usually people have to go through some heavy shit and take a good look at themselves. And that's where they realize that they have to look at themselves and they have to take full responsibility for everything in their life. And when you look through that lens, it just changes everything. And by the way, once you understand these things and you start applying them towards your life, everything gets better. Everything.
Yeah, there's a Dostoevsky quote, I think it's at the end of this one, where he says the key to salvation is owning responsibility for everything.
These books, by the way, there's actually there are 4 books. There's another book with inside here, a small one, and one within here. But this first one, I Am, it's about you and all your vulnerabilities and blind spots that you're not aware of. This covers a lot of the big ones that people are unaware that they're doing. And this is what holds them back. This is what stops them. This is what, people who are emotionally dysregulated, they don't realize how, it's not what, I can remember someone coming to me when I was very young saying, Mike, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you don't really realize your impact of words and how it affects people. And so you have to be more, cautious with the words that you use and understand, more intentional, yes. Because words do hurt. And so the one book is about you, and the other one is what does it take to be a great leader? And by the way, in the book you cover good leaders and bad leaders because the playbook is the same. It comes down to intent. What are you going to do with this information? And you can either harm someone or you can use it for good, and we choose to use it for good.
So the quote is by Dostoevsky, and it is, there is only one means of salvation. Then take yourself and make yourself responsible for all men's sins. That is the truth, and friends, for as soon as you sincerely make yourself responsible for everything and for all men, you will see at once that this is really so, and that you are to blame for everyone and for all things.
That's pretty deep.
It is, and it's a hard one for people to put their head around because it's not logical, right? That you would be responsible for somebody else's behavior. But like with anything, if you expand your horizon, you expand your expectation, you learn more. When you do take responsibility for the people around you, it changes how you act, right? And in a sense, that is leadership. So, back to people that have an external locus of control, that attribute control to outside forces,
yes.
They are 100% followers. Like you are a sheep, you are a follower. You're giving control away to luck, fate, God, whatever it is, but ultimately you're a follower in every sense of the word. And to be a leader, the first step is to lead yourself.
Correct.
And that's the thing that I thought was missing from all the leadership training out there was nobody talks about the person. Everybody talks about leadership as this like ethereal thing.
Yeah.
But leadership starts with you inside, like leading yourself. Like if you can't control your thoughts, you can't control your behaviors, you can't control showing up on time, your work ethic, then you can't, it's impossible to lead others or get others to follow you, in a sense.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you and I understand about this is, if you're building a company and you build your company on people with external locus of control, you have to be very heavy-handed, because those people are very volatile. They're very emotional. They feel like they have no control, so they don't take responsibility for anything.
Right. So this leads companies into chaos.
Total chaos.
And they implode, actually, is what ends up happening. So let's talk more about that.
Yeah. So, you know, as a leader of a company, I mean, there's two parts, right? One is teaching this.
Yes.
And having an architecture and a language for taking personal responsibility. And then the second part is recruiting people that take responsibility. Like, you know, I always, for a long time, would hire people that had a track record of performance. And what I realized over time is people that have a track record of performance actually have a track record of owning responsibility, having an internal locus of control, because you can't get there without that, right? Like, people don't get lucky, in a sense, over and over again. And it's really hard to run a company when you have a bunch of external locus of control people that are prone to emotion, depression, fatalism. And if there's a group of them, it's a mess. You have to be very heavy-handed.
I want to say something. After our management team and sales team took this, it changed the trajectory and energy of this company. And it was like almost hard to contain the energy once they understood this. And it was, we were able to contain it and move it in the right direction. And it made a hell of a difference.
It's the best day of your life when you take responsibility, because now you're in control. It's freedom.
Yeah.
It's ultimately freedom. Like, you really are in control of where you live, what you do.
You can't control other people, but you can control your emotions, what you do, and how you do it. And this thing about taking full responsibility.
I mean, when I go to Chicago, where you're from, historically, when I would go there to fix businesses and I would be leaving on a Friday to come home, people would say, in the winter, because the winters there are brutal.
Yes,
people, they would say, take me with you. I can't do another winter here. And I would say, you control the weather.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to leave, leave. There's no reason to complain. You've chosen to live here. This is the weather. It's always been the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time in history, I think, that the Great Lakes were just frozen over, you know, in the Ice Age or whatever. Like, you've chosen that. You control the weather by where you live. Yeah. It's all a decision, you know, and people want to create excuses or, you know, tell themselves a story that's different than that. But the truth of the matter is, you have and I have many times in life gotten to the point where we were fed up and we moved to a different city. We changed our image, our, you know, location, everything all at once. Yeah. And you have the capacity to do that. You have the capacity to take control of your life. And the flip side of that is, you're going to have more energy. You're going to feel more authentic. You're going to be more attractive to others.
Whoa, that's a big one. You're going to be way more attractive to the opposite sex, no matter if you're male or female, and you understand this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because women, at the end, if you're a guy, women want to be led. They do. They want a leader. And if you're subbing that out to the woman, it's not going to work.
And people are attracted to the leader. People are attracted to the person that will take responsibility. It's an attractive characteristic.
Yes, it is.
It's in a world where nobody does. You're unique.
Very. They say that 10% of the population is self-aware. That means 90% isn't. And locus of control is probably the first biggest step to
90% of people are external in one area of their life or another.
Yeah.
Like, we have a mutual friend who is really in shape.
Yes.
And they take their physical condition very seriously. but externally they have a terrible time with women in their love life. And all women are cheaters, all women are this or whatever. In a city of 18 million,
That's right.
you know, so you can externalize in different areas of your life, but it all comes from the same place.
Yes, and so when you learn this, if you're going with someone for the opposite sex, you'll understand if they have an internal locus of control or external locus of control just by speaking with them for a little bit. You'll find out very, very quickly whether they are or they're not just by listening to the conversation.
Well, one thing we should probably talk about too is how much has the type of person and the intention of a significant other changed for us figuring out locus of control? Because in a sense, for me, and I think your journey is very similar, is I'm looking for a partner that makes me better. I'm looking for a partnership versus a validation or a control or whatever it is. You know, you change what you're looking for when you start owning responsibility because the stakes are different.
Yeah. And
it matters.
And you realize that the person that you're talking to or potentially isn't going to work out in the long run because you see all these red flags. Before you can see those red flags, you have to understand your own red flags.
Well, sometimes you're attracted to the red flags.
Oh, yeah. By the way,
for a
because
long time, I
was
wanted
too.
the drama. I wanted the stress
Yeah.
because it made me feel alive.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an example of a good relationship growing up. I grew up, everybody was fighting, and you know that's just what it was.
Same in my household. People were fighting, carrying on, pots and pans flying.
Yeah. So that's what I thought it was.
And to us, that was our normal. And what we didn't realize is there actually is a real normal. You're just not aware of it because of the surroundings that you're in, the environment, and the people around you. And once you understand all this, everything starts changing. It just, like certain people, you just got to get rid of them naturally out of your life because you just.
But I would
they're not serving you.
I would have never attracted that person
to begin with,
unless I changed. It started with me changing, because those people, you know, and I think a part of that, and the other thing we should talk about is, you know, the cause of external locus of control, and there's tons of studies on this, and I've read all the books about it, is learned helplessness.
Let's talk about what is learned helplessness.
So learned helplessness is when you feel like even if you tried, the thing wouldn't work out, right? So if you know, let's just say you're single and you've gone out a couple times to bars and you chicken out, or you don't want to approach girls, or you approach them and you feel like it didn't work, or you were made fun of, or, you know, whatever the narrative is that you create in
or a
your
sales
head.
call even.
Yeah, sales call is a good example.
Yeah.
You know, you've done it over and over again and it doesn't work. So your mind, as a protection mechanism, says, let's externalize this. It's automatic pilot. It just happens let's attach this to an external force that, the market's broken
because that
right
way
now.
it
Nobody's
keeps
spending.
you feel safe. Your ego is safe now.
And then invariably what happens is you find friends that justify that. So it's easy in a sales environment to find a bunch of other salespeople that say the market's down and nothing's working.
Correct.
And so then that becomes the city you build. That's the world you live in. You've externalized control. But what happens, and it's kind of like with judgment, right? Like when you judge somebody, it's final and you don't come back to it. You get a little hit of dopamine and it's final and that's it. When you externalize control, it's the same sort of thing. You get a little hit of dopamine because you've got a valid excuse, and you get the dopamine hit too when somebody else validates your excuse.
That's it.
But then it's final. You don't challenge that anymore. You give up, and that's learned helplessness. You've just given up on that thing. Well, when you're a kid, you know, like let's say you have, for me, I remember I had this uncle, and he had a bunch of big kids, you know, that were my cousins that would beat me up. And so whenever I would go over to their house, they would hold me down. They would beat me. I hated going there. Yeah. I hated everything about it. So I would tell my mom, I don't want to go over there. And mom would say, no, it's your Uncle Tommy. You're going to go over there. Not only are you going to go over there, you're going to like it and you're going to be nice. And so you just, you resolve yourself to, I have no control. Yeah. And when you're a kid, you really don't have control. Yeah. So all of these things happen to us in our childhood that give us learned helplessness, where we perceive that we're introverted, or we perceive that we're not likable in certain situations, or we're not good at math, or whatever it is. And then we walk around saying that, oh, I'm not good at math, or I'm not this, I'm not that. That becomes our identity. But what we miss is somewhere in our early 20s, we gain full control of our life.
Yes, we do.
And we're not we're not at the mercy of adults anymore. We are the beginning of an adult. And we can undo all of that. But because it becomes automatic pilot, and it's just automatic pilot to say, well, I'm not good at math. Yeah. Well, hey, if you want to buy businesses or run a successful business, you don't have a choice but to be good at math. Yeah. So you got to learn math. Saying that I'm not good at it because...
Well, by the way, that's dangerous, because your subconscious mind does not know the difference between something real or imagined. And the way that you talk to yourself is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And so that's learned helplessness in a sense, is we automatically will attribute the result to an outside force. We'll get a little hit of dopamine. It will become our reality, and then we won't try anymore. And the opposite of that, the internal locus of control, is based on creativity and change.
Yes, it is.
So if you have an internal locus of control and you want to be the top salesperson and what you're saying isn't working out, well, you control the words you're using. You control when you call. You control how you show up. Maybe the phone doesn't work and you should show up in person. There's all kinds of things that you can do creatively to try to figure out how to get that outcome, that intentionality, right? So Rotter did these studies on locus of control on high school kids. And the first thing they did is they qualified the kids whether they had an internal or external locus of control. So they had them take this test that tells you where you fall. And then they followed the kids. And the thing that they found with the kids that had an external locus of control is most of them didn't go to college. Most of them were low status. They didn't achieve much. They were prone to depression, addiction, all kinds of negative things. Yeah. The kids with an internal locus of control were successful, happier, more fulfilled, all of that. And the commonality between the difference between the kids with external and internal was intentionality. So the kid that had an internal locus of control said, I want to get a scholarship for football to college, and they didn't give up. They kept trying no matter what, even if they got a bad coach, a bad teacher, they didn't give up. They kept trying for this thing. They had an actual goal. They had an intention that they were trying to achieve. The external locus of control students had learned helplessness in the sense they didn't believe that they were worthy of that. They didn't believe that it was possible even if they tried. Yeah. And so then that becomes their reality. And that's where, and something you and I talk about all the time is that's where self-esteem comes into play, because there's a book in here called The 17 Laws of Leadership. And probably the most important one is that, fear of success is more dangerous than fear of failure. Most people have learned helplessness. They don't feel like they're worthy having a good relationship. They don't feel like they're worthy being successful.
This is so important because it leads to self-sabotage, and the subconscious mind is doing it, and you don't even realize it's doing it.
Automatic pilot.
It's autopilot. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times what I see with people who have external locus of control is they don't even realize they're doing it. They have no idea, and it goes to default mode in the brain. Boom, boom,
and it's
boom. And
bad
you have to catch it. No one, by the way, the reason why your parents never told you about this is maybe they would have explained some of this if they were in psychology, is no one gave them a handbook. No one gave our parents a handbook. No one gives in our school system a handbook and going, here's some of the most important things that are going to change the reality in your world and make you a better human being and make this journey, this path that you're on called Earth, just a more wonderful experience.
One of the surprises of putting these out into the world is, and in the workshop too, is how many people come up and they relate it to parenting. Yeah. Because parenting is leadership. And realizing that you had bad leadership and changing that cycle, breaking that cycle.
Yeah. I want to go back to learned helplessness. The Hollywood model, when you see celebrities, it's one of learned helplessness. They put a team of people around you, and they do everything for you. And after a while, you forget the skill sets that you once had, and you rely more and more upon these people to do the work for you, other than you rather than you doing the work for yourself or being involved in it. I found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I see it over and over again. So it's important that you take charge of your life. I want to talk about something you call it the nail in the head, and people build cities around that. What is that exactly?
So it starts with behavioral cascades most of the time, but
What's a behavioral cascade?
so something that happened in childhood, and the behavioral cascades can be good and bad, right? So like, say for example, back to the math analogy I was using earlier, is I had a teacher when I was younger tell me that I was good at math.
Mm-hmm.
So an
Chameleon effect.
adult believed in me, and then I took more interest in math. And I don't know that it was that I was good at math or not, but because
Someone believed in you.
Yeah, complimented me for it. I tried harder in his class. And then when I tried harder, I actually became good at math.
Yeah.
And it probably had nothing to do with the idea that I was naturally good at math because I had to work hard at it. But, and that's a behavioral cascade, right? When you're a kid, and most of these happen between the ages of like 3 and 7, you know, later on in life, they kind of show up in different ways. So like, for example, I had a father leave me, and then I had a stepfather leave me. And so the behavioral cascade, or the unconscious thing that you carry around, is that I'm not worth staying for.
Or you're not loved. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not loved. I'm not worth staying for. Now,
that pounds on your self-esteem.
And then it comes out, the cascade later on is that you are very controlling in relationships, or you avoid relationships altogether because you don't want to get hurt.
Correct.
And it's logical, right? So you will build a city around the idea that you're not good in relationships, and you will justify that. You'll have proof of that. See, she cheated on me. See, I get taken advantage of. I care too much. That's always one that you hear from people is like, I always get taken advantage of relationships because I care too much. So that's externalizing control, right? It's not their problem. It's somebody else always using them.
Right.
And then that becomes your belief system. You've given it, authority. It becomes part of your identity. And then that's just how it is. Like, you're most of the time in relationships, when people are really controlling and they're really jealous, that's a behavioral cascade from them feeling like they're not good enough, or them feeling like at any moment the person that they care about, that they're being vulnerable with, is going to leave them, or because that's what happened in childhood. And so that's in there. That code is in your automatic pilot, in a sense.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they don't realize it, but when they look at for a partner, they don't even realize that they're trying to fix an old trauma by the partner that they picked. And they put themselves, because they picked the wrong partner, and they're trying to validate what happened and fix, because they think children automatically think it's their fault. And so they want to prove to themselves that, hey, it's not my fault. And so they get a person to fix. I did this. And with the hope that I can prove that it wasn't my fault because I fixed this person and I made it right. And the rub is that person was never fixable. You put yourself into a trap. I put myself into a trap that I didn't even realize that I was putting myself into. And you don't understand that until you understand internal locus of control, external locus of control, and
we do the same thing in our companies.
Yes, we do.
Is we believe in people, we want them to change, but they don't want to change, and so we give them chance after chance after chance
instead of writing them up.
Because we see, for me especially, like, I see that I learned and I changed and I evolved over time. So I think, hey, if you just understood this, and we see the full potential in others because we know that we changed dramatically, right?
Correct.
But the problem with that, just like you described romantic relationships, is most of the time, if people would have wanted to change, they would have done it already. And you end up spending a lot of time trying to change people, and it ends up that it's better to just find people that have changed already.
And by the way, once you install this knowledge into your culture, what happens when you install this knowledge? What happens to the self-policing aspect in the culture?
Well, I mean, the first thing, like when you sent your people to go through it, your concern was more about the individual than the company in a big way, right?
Yeah.
And so, and just you understanding that if your people have higher self-esteem and they feel more fulfilled and more authentic, that will carry over to work life, right? And so it starts with your personal life. It starts with you as an individual, the I am in a sense. And then it's, what happens invariably when you start accepting responsibility and creating an internal locus of control is your self-esteem comes up because you start accomplishing things, because you're intentional about things.
Yes.
And, the 6 pillars of self-esteem in that book, he says that self-esteem is the immune system of consciousness. Like we're carrying it around constantly, right? But when self-esteem is raised in your company with your people, they become more creative. They become more intentional, and in a sense, and I think you and I both experience this in our journeys too, is you have more empathy.
Yeah. You're
more empathetic. But the other thing, and I think your company's experienced this too, is there becomes this divide down the middle of the internal and externals.
Yeah.
And the externals become irrelevant because they're sitting around making excuses. They're pointing out all the negativity. People with an internal locus of control don't really have a lot of time for negativity, because if they were accepting negativity, it would be their responsibility. So they, you're gonna tend to lean more towards the positive side of things. Like I had somebody yesterday that I was talking to ask me, the thing about you is like you're just always pretty positive about stuff, and that's the outcome of having an internal locus of control. Like if you're going to plan something out, if you're going to do something, then you would design the thing to be good. You would design the thing to be happy and fulfilling, right? You wouldn't design like most of the negative stuff that happens to somebody with an external locus of control happen to them and then they're reacting.
Correct.
And that's the world they've designed. If you're designing a different world and you're accepting responsibility, the world you're going to design is going to be happy. It's going to be positive. It's, you're going to have a certain outlook on life that is more focused on the opportunity over everything else. And the opportunity is everywhere. I always say the opportunity of a lifetime comes once a day. It's everywhere. It's just, are you paying attention?
Yeah. And by the way, your subconscious mind will take you in the direction of your thoughts. The strangest secret by Earl Nightingale, was what a man thinketh he become. So if you're thinking negative stuff, you're just going to go in a downward spiral, and everything you're going to see in your world is going to be negative. If you look at positive, your positive is going to feed on positive, and you're going in an upward spiral rather than a downward spiral. And you can't let the negative people into your world, because they'll drag you down this crappy rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. So,
and you're always learning when you have an internal locus of control. If you're tracing mistakes back to birth, you're always learning. And there's just something fun about having an outlook of, I could try this a different way and let's see what happens. Yeah. And we should probably talk about the thing too that drives me crazy about people.
Oh, sure.
That is in, in my opinion, kind of an external locus of control, is this idea that people need to love themselves. Like I get so many people that are like, I'm working on loving myself. Yes. I just need to love myself. And so invariably what I always do is I say, well, could you tell me what love is? And they can't. Nobody can explain what love is, right? It's a feeling. It's an emotion.
That's right.
But what the problem with basing things on an emotion is that it changes all the time. And so I always say to people like, okay, if you're trying to love yourself, are you going to break up with yourself? Like,
right.
Because we're flawed. None of us are so great in a sense. So the thing that I find with that, or that has worked for me, is to like myself.
You know, I like that. Instead of loving yourself, to like yourself.
I'm rooting for myself,
Yeah.
but it's not life or death.
Like is the first step to loving. And so Cialdini talks about commitment and consistency. And if you take a small step, you're more apt to take a larger step. And that larger step is loving yourself. So just start with liking yourself. Can you like yourself? Yeah, I think most people can like themselves.
Root for yourself.
Root for yourself.
Prioritize yourself.
And get to that I love myself stage.
What happens for the people that are trying to love themselves is that when mistakes happen, it's devastating. And so they have to design a world where they're playing not to lose, because every loss is an indictment in a sense, you know. And losses aren't indictments, they're just part of the feedback loop.
Yeah.
Like Elon says, if you're not failing 40% of the time, you're not trying hard enough.
I want to talk about, Rob, Elon, signal and noise, because Elon is, but they said he's as close to 100% signal as you can get and not noise. And there's a lot of noise out in the world today. You hear it in your family life, social life, and in business. There's a lot of noise. And you have to be able to determine what is signal and what is noise. And noise is anything that distracts you from your goal. And signal is just, okay, I have this one thing that I want to do, and I want to get this done, and I'm going to take it to the end. I'm going to stick with it till I get it done. And you don't listen to anyone else's bullshit.
Well, don't you find that when you're intentional about something and you're owning responsibility for it, like you have an internal locus of control, that the noise disappears automatically? It just is it's a part of that architecture. You don't have time for it.
You don't pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, because you're too busy.
You know that.
You feel alive trying to do the thing.
Before I would feed into that, now I just know, oh, that's noise. That's not signal. And what's signal? How do I keep going down the path that I want to keep going down?
I mean, the other thing too, though, is like you and I both pay attention to it because it is a way to lead society and lead people.
Oh.
Because people, you know, if 90+% of people have an external locus of control, marketing, you know, consumerism is created by this gap in an external locus of control, right? That the idea that the car you drive makes you more important.
Correct.
That's all external, in a sense. And so we do pay attention to that, like how people are moved. It's marketing in a way, but it doesn't get on us. We become immune to it, I think.
Yeah.
You start to see the way that the cake is made, but you're not thinking about the cake.
Yeah. Let's talk about confrontation, because one of the things when you get internal locus of control is, and you get good, you step into being uncomfortable. And a lot of folks will externalize, job it out, the different things that they don't like to do, rather than stepping into it and dealing with it. And it has to do with self-esteem. You think you're going to get rejected, or this is going to happen, or it's going to make movies in your head that things are far worse than what they are. And what I found is, whatever the hardest thing is that I need to do, I just step into it now, and I usually do it as the first thing in the morning. I'll deal with it. I'll call the person up. I'll talk to it. I don't care how bad it is, what the situation is, but you got to deal with it. If you step away from it, you're just teaching. You're not building your self-esteem. Every one of these wins that you do when you step into a difficult situation will build your self-esteem. If you do the opposite, it'll just chip away at it.
I think that that's a key to being authentic, because in a sense, what you just described is telling the truth.
Yeah.
If you're avoiding the truth, if you're avoiding confrontation, you're not going to accomplish the thing you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. You're putting the goal aside for being liked and not having somebody uncomfortable with you, in a sense, right?
You want to be liked, and so you don't want to make that person feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I deal with this in my company all the time. Is I have guys that are, you know, they go out to fix a business, but these guys that we're fixing businesses for are very successful. They're very rich. They're type A personalities, and they can convince you that even though they're losing money, and even though all the things that they've done to get where they are, that they hired us, isn't reality somehow. And then they start to say, well, no, you know, you're going to use this pay plan, you're going to do this. And it's like, you have to have the, you know, the understanding that the thing is broken and the only way this gets fixed is to tell the truth. And so the idea that you want to be liked by this person that's important, or
approved,
celebrities do this all the time, right? Is like people are affected by the celebrity thing and they don't tell the truth because it's so, you know, intoxicating or whatever it is. It all comes from the same place, and it's based on the truth. If you're telling the truth, you're more authentic and you feel better, but it feels uncomfortable if your motivation is just for the approval. And you know what's funny too is you're in a way, or what I found is I was looking for approval from people that didn't matter.
That's a big one. Like looking for approval for people that don't matter, and that's noise. There's a lot of noise out there, and
like how many times have you?
Don't buy into the gossip, the bullshit. Just keep on your path. And by the way, people are going to see if they can knock you off your path. It's a game that they play, especially women with men, and some men do it with women as well. And so you have to be very strong in your mind and disciplined and understand that this is my goal, this is where I'm going, and I'm not going to listen to anyone else's BS.
The thing that comes to mind is watching Elon fire somebody on a Zoom. And like, how many times do we allow somebody in our company to exist that doesn't matter? A year from now, we won't even remember the person, but they're giving us all the signals that they don't care, they don't want to be a part of the solution, they don't want to collaborate. And we allow them to exist because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or be out of a line or whatever it is. And Elon's just like, oh, hey, you're fired. Like, he doesn't even think twice. Like, he's like, no, that's cheap. Right, yeah. It's too out of the matrix that I'm trying to build to exist. It's got to go. Like, that's it.
That's all signal.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a gap in time between stimuli and response, and that we 100% control, is how we answer or how we show up to anything. As you say, how we do anything is how we do everything.
What do you mean by that? The gap.
The gap. Well, you get stimuli, and then you have your response.
So you have the action.
You have the action.
The event happens.
And in between that time, it's milliseconds, by the way, and so you have to be able to slow your brain down and not be in reactive mode, but think in more logical mode. Take a breath. You don't need to answer that person real quick. And in fact, if you say, you know what, I'll come back, I'll have the answer tomorrow or the next day, or you think about it, because how you respond is going to impact the other person more than you could ever imagine. So you have to understand that you control that. And the best way to do anything in that situation is to be dead calm. Do not be overreactive. Don't, just be calm. And that's one of the hardest things, and I still work on it every day. I find sometimes I reacted. I went, then in the evening I'll self-reflect. I'll go, okay, I can handle this a lot better and not react it the way that I reacted.
You know what I do is I re-role play it.
In your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will go back to the spot.
I do that. Yeah, exactly. I'm talking to the person and redoing it, because again, your subconscious mind doesn't know that what you're thinking is real or not.
And then when I get it right, I high five myself too.
Good.
I would say that I've never walked into a business that had a broken culture and it wasn't the leader. It's always the leader.
It's always the leader.
Always.
Yep. So how do you have that conversation with the leader?
Well, there's a couple different ways to do it. The first thing that came to mind is I remember one time flying out to a business in the Midwest, and I knew this person running this business, and the culture was bad. It was reactive. They were losing a lot of money, and I made her sign. It was just between me and her.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like lawyers or anything.
Right.
I made her sign an agreement that she wasn't going to step into the business for 6 months.
Wow. For 6 months, she wasn't going to step in the business. She gets to take a vacation.
Yeah.
And did she do it?
Yeah.
And what happened?
It only took me 3 months to fix it.
And did you then explain to her step by step what happened and why it was now running smoothly and why it wasn't before? How do you handle that?
it was kind of a mix with her in the sense that she understood that she had a certain effect on people, but she also thought that that's how it had to be. And that particular company had issues with the union, so they had union employees in there. And I was able to leverage the union and make I was able to use the union and collaborate with them just fine. And I think to some degree she understood, but she was not looking to change. Like, no. I don't think she changed that much through the process. She just got more distance from the business, in a sense. Like,
I remember we were in a mastermind group with Joe Polish, and there was one guy that said, I used to be in my business all the time, and now I'm down to I went down to 15 hours a week, and I'll be damned if I'd have got more things in the business got done and things ran better. He goes, now I only go there for 1 hour a week, and things are running really, really well. So sometimes the leader is it. So it brings me to my next question. What's the difference between a culture that scales and one that crumbles when pressure hits?
So there's kind of two types of cultures, and the one that you want is one of performance. So you want a culture in your company of performance.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so,
especially for sales.
Just like in your personal life, the more you own the outcome or the responsibility for what you're doing and the more intentional you are, the more you have a goal or a purpose or something you're striving for, the more creative you get.
Okay.
And so a culture of performance in a company is based on internal locus of control and creativity. And you want to practice creativity. Like, one thing that we do in our company is we try to get people that maybe are in one department working in other departments. We take trips together. We study out, businesses that have nothing to do with us. And we, it's a culture of creativity. It's encouraged, and it starts with me, in a sense. I'm curious. You're curious about how things work and what, why things flow, and sometimes they don't flow, in a sense. And so it, the internal locus of control, owning responsibility for your, area.
So if you get a business owner who is external locus of control, how do you bring them back get them to go into internal locus of control? Do you explain it to them? Do you sit them down and have a long talk with them? What usually happens?
Usually they take to it like a fish in water, because it's the thing they've been looking for, because they are at their end usually when they're asking for help, right? Yeah. To ask for help, you are admitting that the situation you're in isn't what you want. And so then, depending on how bad it is, because there's varying degrees of it, there's like a time period of processing that has to happen.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes that takes about a year. Just seems like a long time, but it goes by pretty quick.
Because you go through the 5 stages of loss. And and you realize you lose your old self and recreated your more authentic self rather than the mask. Yeah.
The key to that too is like showing some sort of social proof that it can work.
Okay.
Also, so teaching it, but also kind of making it work in a sense for them. Giving them some wins. It's like that with anybody, right? Is if you manufacture some outcomes for them, they will start to believe.
Okay, so that brings us to self-esteem. You say that self-esteem is the foundation of leadership. That's not something you read in most business books. And why is that so central to this book and your messaging?
Self-esteem is the immune system of consciousness. And like if you look at a lot of people that we would perceive as leaders, like politicians, for example, a lot of times what they're seeking is not leadership in a sense of an outcome. What they're seeking is control and power. And that's not leadership.
So leadership is not control and power. So then what is leadership?
Leadership is creating followerships in others towards a mission. So it's
Towards a purpose?
yeah. And so the higher the self-esteem and the more internal the locus of control on a team, the more of a collaboration towards the mission it is, and less of a top-down sort of hierarchy. And the top-down sort of hierarchy relies on I can fire you, relies on power in a sense. But that really can also become your worst enemy because there's only so much power to go around. And if you're fighting for power, most of the time you're not really going after the mission. It deters you from the mission.
Yeah, it's a form of self-sabotage.
Well, I mean, how many times have we wanted to accomplish something? We go out and find the expert in that, and then we accomplish it really quick because we had the right person. We collaborated with that person. We never, we paid them money, but we never had to tell them what to do in a sense. And so Elon and Steve Jobs and a lot of, these iconic leaders in our current, society, the thing that they will always say is it comes down to getting people that are really good at what they do and love to do that thing more than what I have done, unfortunately, is try to change people, try to mold people into something they don't want to be, that sort of thing. And where they just don't have patience for that.
Yeah. So when you see a person with low self-esteem, low self-worth, what do you do to start building up their self-esteem? What is something that's actionable that everybody can do right now to start building their self-esteem, whether they think that they have low self-esteem or not? What can they do to start building more confidence? Because confidence comes with self-esteem. So what can they do to, how you kind of said it before, but how can they understand that they can manufacture self-esteem, the building of their self-esteem by doing?
In my experience, self-esteem is a feeling. It's an emotion. It's not based in reality, right?
Okay.
And so when you accept responsibility and you develop an internal locus of control, things become more logical, right? Because let's say you're single and you want to meet girls and you go to a bar and you say hi to a couple girls and they aren't interested in you. Your emotion will say, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not attractive, or I'm not rich enough, or, girls only want guys that are super successful, whatever it is. That's self-esteem at play, right? But if you accept responsibility and you start being creative and testing and you show up and you start, the one thing in the pickup artist world that works like crack cocaine basically is if you can read a girl's horoscope or her palm or anything like that, you show up and start doing that. And now,
which is all external locus of control, by the way.
You start to have success. You forget about your self-esteem because you're having success in a way. So in a way, my experience or the way that it's worked for me is self-esteem kind of comes off the table when you just start looking at things of, if I showed up a little more researched, if I worked a little harder, if I was more creative, if I tried, if I had outside opinions, that sort of thing. And it's not whether I'm good enough or not. It's just whether I lined up everything and executed in the best way possible, which only comes from trial and error in a sense.
So you have to start with a bunch of small wins and then build up from the small wins to medium wins to bigger wins. And because I know for me, that's how it was.
But the wins come from accepting responsibility.
Yes. And small ones, and then medium ones, and then I put myself into some situations that I never would have put myself in, and confronting and talking to people. And
but
by the way,
the stakes are lower when you do that now, because whether it works or not, you look at it like a math problem. Like, how did I show up? Could I have said something different?
Correct.
Could I have had a different energy?
Yeah, all of it.
All of that.
All
right?
of that. But when I do it and it works, it builds your confidence. It becomes a self-feeding perpetual loop, because it's like, okay, that went well. What else can I do? That went well. What else can I do?
You're learning.
Yeah.
And learning is
And
contagious.
you're climbing the self-esteem ladder and self-worth ladder.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything better in life than learning.
Yeah.
Like it's a drug.
Yeah.
Gaining a new tool that opens you up to new possibilities.
Yeah. So if someone wants to begin building their self-esteem, start with understanding internal locus of control, and then putting yourself into situations that you're not comfortable with and dealing with it.
Be intentional. Like, let's say you're single and you want to meet girls.
Yeah.
Like, really be intentional that I'm going to read books. I'm going to go out. I'm going to actively try to figure out.
Or if you want to close more sales, okay, read books, figure out things.
Try different things.
Try things, and don't be afraid. Just, it's okay if you burn the house down. Just, what did you learn from that? How can you approach differently? What can you do? It all matters.
And also, people are very forgiving too.
They are.
Like, you can tell people, hey, I'm trying a new thing here. I'm trying to learn, and people will give you a lot of leeway.
People will give you grace.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
especially if you're honest.
If they don't, it says a hell of a lot about them, and that's probably a red flag right there. It is a red flag. Wow. So, with today's workplace noise, notifications, entitlement, distractions, how do you stay centered as a leader? Again, signal to noise, you know, that's the old thing. How do you stay centered with all the bullshit going on today? The economy, the wars, all the things that are going on. The Republicans, the Democrats, left versus right. It's just, how do you stay focused and centered?
Well, I mean, I control all that, so it's what I let in. And so I just don't let it in. I'm not on social media. I'm not digitally connected to a lot of stuff. I read a lot of books. I spend a lot of time thinking. I create a world where I have space. You're
intentional.
I don't want to have a world where I'm constantly reacting. I mean, there's no way these books are created in a world of reaction. It can only be, yeah. I mean, you saw the process.
I saw
it was painstaking.
Every week come in and we talk. What are you doing? What do you got here? And like, we're working on this, working on that. By the way, I want to hold this book up because I want people to understand. Even though they look like they're big books, they're easy to read. There's a lot of pictures, and the pictures are very intentional as well. By the way, you're an artist trapped in a marketer's body. I've always said that.
Well, it's true, though. But the intention of the book was for people to take the content and get better. Yeah. So it's formatted in a way that is heavy message, but low word count. Because a lot of people don't read books, and a lot of people, it's just work to read a book.
The average person reads 6 books after they get out of high school in their lifetime.
So knowing that, I designed the books that they're easy, and also there's something that you want to come back to and just open up at any point.
By the way, you can open up any page and just start reading and learning.
Yeah,
it's really cool how you did that. Yeah, everything. I watched you for all those years. It was super intentional. You were painstaking over every picture, every word, all of that.
And trying to put myself in the mind of the reader. Yeah. There's a lot of empathy in that. There's a lot of empathy in trying to create things that actually will make a difference. And, you and I both, we love buying stuff or getting stuff that you can tell the person cared that made it. Yeah. There's a love in that. You're sharing love with the world when you have an empathy and you care about what you make. Just your business is that way. Like, you care very deeply about the results that your clients get, and you're always it's probably takes up a lot of your thought, and you're obsessing on it continually from their point of view, right? And that is I don't know, I think that's love. I think that's a way to share love, is making stuff that gets people a different outcome than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, because these books are unlike any leadership book that I've ever read. And I can remember, it was 12 years ago. You're at 1010 Wilshire, and you were reading leadership books by all these different coaches. And I was asking, why are you reading all these books on leadership? But your journey had started a decade ago with leadership. And it just led to more and more understanding, deeper understanding, until you got to this point, which is amazing.
Yeah, but always feeling like those leadership books weren't telling us the truth. Like you and I have been in many situations with people, we won't name names, but pretty famous people where we try to talk about the real thing that's going on, and no, like
He shuts you down.
there is a secret
Yeah, there is.
world that you have to crack.
This is the world.
Yeah.
To me, this is the world that
But you
they
and I
don't
have
talk
always
about it.
craved that sort of conversation where people tell you the truth of human behavior, the truth about what's going on.
Perception versus perspective. Like with our perception of how things are versus how they really are, that's a big wake-up call. A big wake-up call. Yeah. So when you walk into a company, what are some of the red flags that you know that this culture is just messed up?
You see it in the financial statement before you get there.
Well, that's interesting. So what do you see in the financial statement? Because you're big on financials, reading financials. You can read a financial and tell exactly what department's having what kind of problems and the type of problems that they're having.
Yeah. I mean, it's supply and demand. Numbers don't lie. Numbers tell you the story. And so your average per customer, the volume, the expenses, the profitability, it all tells you a story about what's going on. So it's not even most of the time. It's 100% of the time. You kind of know what the culture is before you get there, just by looking at the numbers.
Just by looking at the numbers.
I mean, a company that's losing money and has a low average per client in any industry is not functioning from a position of constant improvement or performance, right? Like we want a culture of performance. That's not performance when you're losing money.
No, it's not.
And then what invariably happens is when you get there, guess what they're talking about? Or guess what they're not talking about?
What?
That they're losing money.
So wait a minute. They call you
It's
up.
like a four-alarm fire.
They won't even tell you. They don't say, by the way, we're losing money. They just figure you're going to figure that out on your own.
And what the employees will say is, yeah, I've heard him mention that before, but it doesn't make any sense. And you're like, because if we were losing money, they would close the doors. And it's like, well, that's not how business works. Like they recapitalize the business or they go get investors that recapitalize it. But most of the time people don't give up on the business just because it's losing money. But they don't tell their people the truth, right? It's kind of back to that. It's like it is very powerful to tell a group of people the truth and invite them on a mission. Like if you go into a business that's losing money and you say like, hey, we're losing money, and you explain the financials and all that, and you say, what do you think we should do? They usually come up with pretty good ideas. And, maybe it's half-baked or whatever, but they usually have better ideas than the people sitting in the glass box most of the time. There's a disconnection.
Because they're in the trenches and they see what's really going on.
Yeah. And a lot of times in those sort of situations, like, there's always weird stuff too, right? Like, we don't take checks, or we don't take credit cards. And there's always some weird thing going on. Yeah, that we're creating these obstacles for the client, and the people on the front lines hate it. And and the reason why we did it is because one time, like we threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Like having to take our shoes off going through TSA, but we no longer have to do that, thank God. Yep. I remember the one dude with explosives in his
I remember a car dealership that wouldn't do spot deliveries. And so I was asking the salespeople, I'm like, how could we sell more cars? And they go, well, they'll do spot delivery.
What's a spot delivery?
You walk in, pick out a car, sign the paperwork, and leave in the car.
Oh.
They had a 48-hour cooling off period.
The puppy dog clothes.
So they wouldn't let you buy a car today.
Yeah.
But people are busy.
Yeah.
So they would literally just go to the competition and buy the car today. Because at one point, somebody had unwound a car. One customer in, I don't know how many ever years. And so they're like, we're not doing spot deliveries anymore. People have to wait the 48 hours. Really? It's nuts. And they fought it, the whole thing. But, once it was undone, then the salespeople felt like, oh, okay, there's progress, and it was their feedback, and so it's a win for them. Yeah. But it immediately increased the sales right away.
The sales go up. Yeah, they did. All right. So what's a trait that every weak leader has that you've seen?
External locus of control.
External locus
It's
of
never
control.
their fault. It's the market, and then all their
blame,
friends
blame, and they never look at themselves. What could I have done better? What decision I could have made? How could I have changed this outcome by the choices and decisions that I made?
And they build a board of directors. They got like all their friends they call and it's down. How are you doing? Oh, it's tough. But they justify it.
All right. So we've talked about a lot of negative things. What happens once you figure the I am and your vulnerabilities, your blind spots? Let's talk about the leadership part. So what makes a good leader? You said external locus of control, but what else is in this book that you'd like to talk about?
So what's interesting about these books, and this is there's a lot of layers to this, right?
Yes, there are.
But what I always say is read I am.
Okay.
Most people don't get past I am.
Really?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's very rare that anybody talks to me about the leader book because this is so
deep.
Like you could spend a year on this book.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
But read I am, then read leader and go back and read I am again. I am is the roadmap how to lead people.
So here's all this negative stuff in here. You talk about vulnerabilities and all this stuff. You also talk about positive stuff, internal locus of control. But you say this becomes the roadmap. How does someone, once they read this one, and they go back, what's the aha moment that they're going to experience?
Well, the first kind of like opening in the door is this. The leader book starts out with a story about Germany, and this girl that's a daughter in a family, and her brothers are telling her about how they used to have Christmas, and it just goes through what it was like in Germany.
Yeah.
And then this guy goes to jail and ends up coming into power.
Running the whole place.
And it's Hitler.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to kind of illustrate in that story is that the German people had very low self-esteem. Yeah. Like after World War I, they were blamed for it. They were forced to sign a treaty that like created huge inflation. They were a pretty successful country with high self-esteem, and all that went away. And they were the pariahs of the world. They were their economy crashed, and so these people that could provide for their family and live a pretty good life all of a sudden can't provide. There's no jobs. Society is starting to collapse, and this guy enters the picture, and he says, "No, actually, you're the superior race." And he starts to fix the economy, and he starts to show in newspapers people going on vacations and living better lives, and the opportunities start to appear, and you can get a job, and he's raising their self-esteem. But the thing that Hitler did, and this happens in a lot of leadership situations, is he stepped into that gap of learned helplessness and external locus of control. They felt helpless. There's nothing they could do. That even if they worked harder or tried, it wasn't going to matter.
So when people are in that gap, they're more malleable at that point.
And what is the lesson in I am is you do that. Like when you externalize control, you're vulnerable to you're a follower in a sense. And then it comes down to that thing that you and I have talked about many times is like, yeah, the more external people are, the more they need a leader. But the more external they are, also the heavier handed you have to be.
So explain that more.
Because it's just chaos.
So you need boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries, because that's what you're talking about, right? So if you're going to have a chaotic place, you're going to have some very, very strong archaic boundaries, I would imagine. You're going to go down that path of negativity, that negative path, where you have to use some really hard boundaries with these folks. And to me, it's like, why would you want to do that? It just there's an easier path through life than that.
Yeah, but back to we can't change them. They got to want to change, right?
Yeah.
But I think you kind of seen this in your company a little bit is when you have people accept responsibility and then there's another group that usually is the minority that doesn't.
Correct.
They become the outsiders when before they were the
insiders.
They were the insiders.
Yeah.
So
it's a hard pill for them to swallow.
what happens is the other people in the company that have an internal locus of control get tired of it.
Yeah.
They create their own boundaries just because you just don't want to be around it.
It's self-policing.
And it affects everybody else when you don't take responsibility, right? Because you're not doing your job.
But by the way, if you're
It's
a
a
leader
domino
and
effect.
everybody else sees it and you're not dealing with this problem child, it just it exasperates the situation. It just gets worse and worse in the company because they're saying, well, he's not doing anything. Look at this person's doing that. They're not getting any kind of punishment. So you know what? I'll do the same thing.
And then, the other part of it is what you start to see is those people with an external locus of control most of the time have it from terrible parenting or bad childhoods.
Oh, sure.
And learned helplessness in a sense, and they've built a city around it. They
that's the nail in the head.
And they don't want to talk about it. They, and it's sad. Like you also develop a lot of empathy for it, especially like. I mean, I had a moment the other day that I shared with you where I asked AI for the top 20 negative behavioral cascades that affect humans, what the event is, in the outcome of it. And of those 20, I had 14. And that was a
eye opener.
I don't know, it kind of made me sad in a way, like. And there's a couple on there that I still struggle with, but for the most part, I've beat most of them. But I know how I beat them, and it took work. Like, it wasn't easy in a sense. But, I mean, I think a lot of people are walking around with these behavioral cascades and low self-esteem, feeling like they're not good enough, they don't fit in.
So, you know what that leads into? Shadow integration. Because a lot of things that happen with low self-esteem people is their shadow is ruling their world and they don't even know it. And so I want to talk about shadow integration.
Yeah, and so in here, the story that I use to kind of start that conversation is Jekyll and Hyde, right? And Fight Club is that same story in a sense where the two characters are really one person. It's like your good side and your bad side in a sense, right? So in Jekyll and Hyde, one of them is, the good guy and the other one appears at night and murders people and does all this weird stuff. But it ends up they're the same person at the end of the day. Yeah. And we all kind of have that. Sure. But most of the time what we try to do is we try to repress those feelings, right?
Yeah, we try to suppress and hide the things that you don't want people to see or know about you, and it remains hidden. And when it remains hidden, it will eventually try to rear its ugly head. And when it does, it's usually in the form of self-sabotage.
And so let's just take, for example, the analogy that we used before with my childhood is where I had two parents leave. Yeah. And the unconscious thing is that I'm not worthy, I'm not worth staying for, right? Yeah,
that's right.
And so later on in life, you feel that you're not worthy, you feel shame, and you try to control relationships and
because
it's all unconscious.
Because it makes you feel safe in your mind.
It's all unconscious.
Looking for safety.
And ultimately what you have to do is you have to face the part of you that you're scared of, the part of you that you perceive to be evil. And a lot of times the shadow manifests itself in people where they're designing a life in a response to other people in a way to be liked or in a way to get along or survive versus telling the truth. Yeah. And so the mask gets bigger, the gap between who you really are and what your actions are get bigger, and you don't recognize yourself anymore because you've built this life around appearances. Like this happens here in Hollywood and social media.
Sure
these
does.
People have built these lives around appearing important and special and all that. Yeah. And you know, at the end of the day, they're still humans, and there's a gap
we're all
between.
humans.
Yeah.
We all suffered.
Right. And so, you know, you at some point you have to stop and turn around and kind of look at yourself and accept responsibility and start telling the truth in a, you know, saying like, hey, like these things, you know, to the boundaries conversation, like a part of the shadow for me is like just, you know, telling people that behavior is unacceptable, or I'm not willing to have a relationship with somebody who does that just to be liked or for their approval. And yeah, telling yourself the truth, but then just telling other people the truth about, you know, when you treat me that way, it hurts my feelings, or, you know, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I just think it's based on facing the things that you're afraid of about yourself, and, you know, realizing that you're capable of evil and you're capable of good. I think most people just think they're good, which is a delusion, in a sense.
You know, Jordan Peterson says it's important for a man to be dangerous, but understand how to control it.
Well, yeah, like I remember when I was a kid.
Otherwise, you get pushed around.
When I was a kid, I took martial arts, and the thing that was a byproduct of that is I got in less fights.
Yeah.
Because I knew how to fight. I didn't want to fight. But when I didn't know how to fight, I got in fights all the time. Yeah. And, you know, that in a sense is the shadow, is like when you face the violence, when you face the things that you're afraid of, they no longer have this unconscious power. Yeah. I mean,
and by the way, that's one way of building self-esteem, is dealing with your shadow at chip by chip by chip by chip, and you dealing with it. At least for me, it works when I deal with things that were in my shadow and they come out into the light. They hold no power. If you look at the yin and yang symbol, it's black and white. The black, to me, is your shadow, and the white is the light. And you got to move out of the dark and into the light. And the stuff that is in your darkness that's brought into light no longer holds power over you.
To the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Yeah. That whole story is based around believing in magic.
Let's talk about Jack and people think Jack and the Beanstalk sounds like a nice little story, but it's really talking about something else. So let's get into that.
So in the Jack and the Beanstalk story, Jack's mom sends him into they're broke. They're desolate. They have nothing left but one old broken down cow that isn't worth much, and mom sends Jack into town to sell the last thing that they have. Right. And he goes into town, and on the way he meets somebody who convinces him to trade the cow, not for money, but for magic beans. And, you know, that's Jack believing in there's a different thing, right? There's something better out there. And mom wants to just keep going down this path of destruction. Like, at some point you don't have anything else to sell, but you're not changing your behavior. Yeah. So it's just like you're walking the plank in mom's way. And Jack decides to veer from that and say, no, maybe there's magic out there. Maybe there's something better for me. But when he gets home, what happens? Mom freaks out. Like, I sent you to do this simple thing and you got conned for these magic beans that don't mean anything. She gets upset and throws him out the window, right? And now Jack's in trouble. He's a failure, whatever. And I mean, that's something we all experience in life, is like our old friends, you know, make fun of us for believing in something or trying to make something of ourselves. But ultimately what it is mom doesn't feel good about herself. She doesn't feel like it's possible, right?
Correct.
And you got to break from that. And so that's what Jack's doing, is he's breaking from that with believing in the magic beans. So mom throws the beans out the window, and overnight they grow into this, you know,
big, huge plant.
Goes into the beanstalk that goes into the sky, right? And so Jack goes out there and climbs up, and what that is in a sense, it's your higher self and lower self. It's your shadow.
Let's talk about higher self and lower self. Your lower self is your shadow. Your higher self is eternal locus of control and being a better person.
And we could also say your lower self is your unconscious. Okay. And your higher self is your conscious.
Yes. Okay.
And so the shadow lives in your unconscious, right?
Yes.
But what happens is, if you don't address your shadow in your unconscious, if you don't face those things that are
Face your demons that are holding
yeah,
you
face
back.
your demons of jealousy or insecurity or feeling inadequate or whatever it is. It gets up into your conscious mind. It starts to affect your life in reality, right? And so what Jack has to do is he has to go up there and he has to
Deal with
knock
the ogre.
the giant back down to earth, back down to the unconscious.
Right.
You have to go up and you have to grab that dude, that giant, that thing that you
It's out
think
of
is
control.
unbeatable.
Yeah.
And you got to knock him back down to earth, put him back where he belongs and control him.
Yeah.
And that's the story of the shadow, Jack and the Beanstalk.
So that goes to ego. One of the biggest things that I can remember this story by Gail Fuller. Gail was a friend of my mom's, and I was 25 years old. She took me aside and one day she goes, Mike, I want to talk to you about ego. I go, okay, Gail, let's talk about ego. And she goes, I just want to say that ego, you're going to find out, is going to be and can be a destructive part of your life. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, ego has to be good. That's the motivation to move forward. She said, yes, you have to have some ego, a healthy ego. And she said, but most of the time it's going to get in your way. And I want you to remember this conversation about ego and getting in the way and becoming a self-destructive mechanism. And okay, Gail, I'm 25, I don't care. It's like I'm going through life. But then shit hit the fan in my 50s. I remembered that conversation with Gail. The seed hatched. I went, yeah, ego. How do I suppress that ego? And so that was a big game changer for me, is suppressing the ego. And to this day, I just more and more suppress it and suppress it and suppress it, because I know what I am.
So I think of that a little bit different, and I talk about it in here in a sense of androgyny.
Oh, sure. Let's talk about that.
And
That yin and yang symbol, that's the same thing as androgyny.
so for me, the ego thing is interesting when people say like, oh, my ego got in the way.
Yeah.
I always feel like an ego is an externalization of control in a sense. Like
Okay.
you're giving a thing a name, right?
Okay.
And then you're giving it this power in a sense.
Okay.
And so to me, it's more based on becoming androgynous. And the reason why androgyny is such a powerful thing is that it's the thing that, is inherent in us, right? If you're...
You think androgyny gives us balance?
Well, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And I talk about it here in the book that there is a story of Adam and Eve where man was male and female.
That's correct. If you go back to ancient text, we were originally hermaphroditic.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to read from the book. When Jesus asked at what moment the kingdom of heaven would come, he replied, when the two shall be one, the outside like the inside, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. And so gender is such a strong thing. Like if you can get over the idea, and this happens a lot in leadership with female leaders, where they feel like they aren't successful because they're not a man. And so invariably they will say something to me like, well, I just got to be, meaner. I got to get
Be a
mad.
boss bitch.
Yeah, or whatever it is. And
By the way, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all.
By the way, that's the opposite of
what you need to do is be a better version of yourself that people want to follow. But whether you're female or male is indifferent to inviting people on a mission. That's what leadership is, right? And accomplishing a mission. And so just understanding that to really be a leader, you have to show up into situations androgynously and do the thing that's best for the situation in line with the outcome you want to create, not the thing that makes you feel good, not the thing that gets you approval, not the thing that is what you've always done, but what is it that's going to get me where I want to go right now in this current situation? An example of that is like in leadership, there's all of these ideas that leaders eat last, right?
Okay.
And so like, you know, there's a bunch of people out there that think like that's the key to leadership is leaders eat last. But you and I are familiar with somebody coming in and help fixing a company, and they made everybody stand up when the leader walked in and applaud.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of people that are if I said their names, everybody would recognize them,
Yep.
run big companies. I've been to events with them where when they walk in, everybody stands up, they eat first, even to the point where people wait for them to eat, like, and they're very successful. And so, you know, if you go into a situation where the people are entitled and you give them more entitlement, you're going to be less effective.
Yeah.
And so whether you eat last or, you know, I always think the best place to start is in the middle. You learn more in the middle of the line eating than you do at the beginning or the end.
Okay.
But depending on the situation, you would want to have a certain character, a certain appearance, a certain strategy
Sure.
to get an outcome in relation to where they're starting, where the people that you're leading are starting and what their context is and the outcome that you're trying to create. It isn't a one size fits all.
Correct.
But what happens a lot of times is if we do something once and it works for us, that becomes I'm going to write a book, Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah.
But that only works in certain situations. And that's just true across all behaviors. And so androgyny is the idea that you show up to the situation to create the outcome. And then there's just a great little story about Bruce Lee, how what he realized is that what you want to do is you want to become water, because water's hard. Like he was fishing once and he punched the water and he realized that the water was hard, but it also moved. And when you put water in a teacup, it takes on the form of a teacup, but it's still powerful. A river can still wash you away, but it takes on the characteristic of the situation that it's in. And so you want to be like water. You want to be fluid and not, stuck in your ways as a leader when you come into a situation.
You want to be flexible and adaptable.
Yeah. In line with the mission. And
Yes.
not in what most people are doing is they are in line with their need for approval, their need for power, their need for appearances,
Yeah.
all of that. And that's a hard one.
That is.
It's a hard one for a lot of people.
So androgyny is you being in perfect balance with yourself?
It's you
Because you got the
like,
shadow and you've integrated it. You've got the light, the dark, the light. It's
you have to integrate the shadow first. You have to have a control of that dude. You got to knock that giant back down to the ground. And sometimes we have a few shadows. We gotta go up there.
yeah. So how do you figure out what okay? So yeah, I've got this darkness. I've got this thing. How do I deal with it? How do I talk about it? Journaling? Like what? Like how get it on paper? You talk to a shrink about it, like a therapist. What? How do you deal with that? What's the best way of shadow integration? I know the 12-step program they have shadow integration. It's third or fourth step. They talk about it, and you talk in a group, and all the things that you did, and that no longer holds power over you. That's the concept.
Well, I think like in our situation, you and I are kind of similar with this, is we want to improve and get better.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see those sort of behaviors and outcomes that aren't desirable and we're getting in our own way, when we sense that we're getting in our own way, we turn around and we analyze, where is this coming from? And we kind of trace it back to the cause, which is usually childhood in a lot of ways. And then there's two philosophies out there. There's the Western philosophy of therapy and building a temple to your issues and all that. Yeah. I kind of prescribe to the Eastern philosophy more, that once I know that there is a problem, I know what the fix is because I know what the problem is. The fix and the problem are one and the same. You just got to acknowledge it and then you go to work changing it. And a lot of times just acknowledging it makes it powerless. Is that similar to your experience?
Yes.
I'm not 100%. A big therapy guy, and it works for people, and that's great. But to me, it seems more like continuity.
I mean, therapists put you on a continuity program. Remember, we both went to the same therapist, right? And I remember him. We spoke to him, and you asked him, and I asked him. I says, "Hey, just fix us. Like, what's wrong with us? And what do we got to change?" He goes, "Those are your drivers, and I don't want to mess with your drivers." He knew that the broken parts of us were the ones that were giving us jet fuel to where we wanted to go, and he refused to fix that. And later on, we figured it out on our own.
Yeah,
like all the studying and everything that you did, and all the people that we interviewed and talked to.
Yeah. I personally don't agree with that in a sense, although we figured it out either way. But I think that having unhealthy drivers, like just trying to be successful for success' sake, is a miserable life.
It is. Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, what we want to do is make the world a better place. The reason why we're having this conversation is we realize that there's people out there that were just like us.
Yeah.
We're not any better than anybody.
We're not special in any way. No.
Maybe if there's a difference is we're just willing to put in the work, maybe, or seek out the answer.
And we sought out the answers.
But we want to share that with people, and we want other people not to suffer. But I feel like a big part of my existence when I was younger was based on running from something and using success as validation. Like, I was important because I was successful, but I didn't like myself. I didn't. And so
I didn't even know that I didn't like myself.
If you stop for any amount of time and you have to spend time with yourself, all you do is just go create another scenario that you can go chase, because you're only functioning in a world where you don't have to stop and face your shadow or your demons.
Right.
And so chasing the, the success and the work and all that is an addiction. It's no different than drinking or drugs or anything else.
We call it a workaholic.
It's numbing. It's numbing and distracting you from the real feelings that you're having. And
it also blocks you from doing the things that you should do with friends and family and socially, because you're so driven to get this to where you want to go, to this goal. High performance trauma. Yeah. And
it ends up too, like the friends you build along the way with that is when you don't have that success, they're not real friends. Like a lot of the world that you build in that situation is people that are toxic.
Takers, not givers.
And that's a lonely place to be.
So when you see someone and you see them and you know how to help them, how do you go about having a conversation with them and pulling them to the side? You made it easy. I just give the people the book, your books to go here, read these. We're having a conversation, and then take, the seminar. But like, how does it all begin?
I mean, just meeting somebody one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first thing is finding some sort of common ground, and then listening to them, and then kind of getting an idea where their behavioral cascades are, and what they are, and then.
So will you use a direct or an indirect approach to try to get them to see?
It depends on their responses.
Really?
Like some people are more self-aware than others.
They are.
I mean, the best person for that is the one that says, I know I keep doing this thing and I'm tired of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just think about how many times in our relationship, either you or I have told you the truth about something that hurt for a second.
Yeah.
Like there's been a couple times you've told me the truth and it hurt for a second, but then the next day I was like, oh, you know what? Mike he's actually right. Like all I'm doing is defending this thing that is, I'm saying I'm not getting the outcome that I want, but then I'm defending the thing that's keeping me from getting the outcome.
Yeah.
And
vice versa with you. You point out things to me, I'm like,
but it takes time.
It does. Like you've reapproached 2 or 3 times, and finally go, oh, now I get it.
I think with the locus of control, both of us went through about a year.
Yeah.
of
Figuring
just
it out.
gaining more and more confidence in that theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took
And,
a
and so
minute.
this is the thing. Once you do internal locus of control, you're going to get challenged. You're going to have to confront not only your shadow and your demons, but other people who you think that may not want to hear this, or maybe you make a movie in your head, and that movie most often isn't accurate because our brains have taught us cognitive dissonance to protect ourselves at all times. And so your brain will not put you into a situation that it knows that you're going to get hurt. And so your subconscious does these crazy workarounds that you're not even aware of, and to take you away from that rather than taking you into it and saying, so once it understands that you have the tools and you prove to your subconscious that you can handle the situation, it will then give you another bigger task to do, and another bigger task, and another challenge, and another challenge. As long as you keep knocking them down, at least this would happen in me, your self-confidence, your self-worth builds, your self-esteem builds and builds and builds. Every one of those challenges that I knock down, no matter how big, medium, or small, it all goes towards the wins and more self-confidence.
Yeah. And it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, it's not going to, by the way, if you think you're going to read these books, and yeah, there's going to be takeaways that are going to change your life real fast. But there's other things in here that you're going to have to work on. And it's not going to be easy.
Takes time.
It does.
And you got to have a little empathy.
Oh,
You got to like yourself.
yeah. You can't love other people if you don't love yourself, or like other people if you don't like yourself.
Yeah, you just end up in bad relationships
Yeah.
based on the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And that road is a difficult road, and it doesn't have to be. The road to life actually gets easier once you understand these things. It's almost like this stuff is just like hidden from society. The only closest I've seen is the Jewish religion, Judaism, and listening to rabbis. I hear some rabbis talking about some of this stuff, not all of it. And for me, like that's I've looked at different cultures, been all around the world, and the way that they train and teach the human brain is very different than what's done here in America.
Yeah. And I think another thing that you and I share in this too is that, being business owners, there's this idea that business is separate from the personal, but that isn't how these books are designed. Like, it really is one and the same. Like, the boundaries you have in your personal life are the boundaries you'll have in business. And the idea that you would work with people and not care about them, all of that is very weird. It's always been weird to me when people say it's just business, when it's who we are. We're showing up trying to be the best version of ourselves, putting our passion and our care into something. For it to be discounted as just business is kind of an odd thing. And that's the spirit here too, is that it's all connected. It's all one and the same.
It is, because once you understand this, not only will your business thrive, your interpersonal relationships will thrive as well. And
in the beginning, you might have to function through deduction.
So what does that mean?
There just might be people in your life that
have to go away.
They have, yeah. And I've experienced that a few times in the way that it just isn't healthy. It's not healthy for either side, because you're validating something that isn't real for the other person, and you're getting you're just getting used. You don't have healthy boundaries.
Correct.
And then, it just creates all kinds of toxic outcomes.
My parents let me run wild. Like my dad would be gone for 3-4 weeks at a time. This is my brother and I. And yeah, I had to work on my boundaries. I didn't realize I didn't have strong boundaries until I went through this stuff with you. And I'm like, wow. And so now I understand boundaries and laying them down. And you would be surprised in how many aspects of your life you have to place boundaries down, even with the person that's your partner in your romantic relationship. You have to have boundaries. Otherwise, they will end up disrespecting you and not liking you after a while and becoming resentful.
Yeah, I would say my journey with that was in the beginning, I had to put boundaries down and it felt like a confrontation.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, the energy and the world I've built around me is doing it for me. Like I'm just not attracted to or end up in situations with people that have a negative external locus of control. It's just not a world that I can function in. So I never end up attaching myself to them in a sense. It's not even a decision anymore. Just the energy attracts you to a different kind of person. You end up in a different environment altogether because that's how you see it.
Yeah.
And how you see it is where you end up. You're writing your own movie.
But by the way, that's important. We create our own movie. One of the greatest gift that the great creator gave us is the ability for us to self-direct the way that we want to live and our outcomes, and we don't even realize it. And if we're not getting to where we want to go, you better take a look at yourself, because that is the common denominator. We stand in our own way of going to where we want to go. We are our own worst enemy most of the time. It always comes down to us, you. And if you don't understand that, then your life is going to be very difficult compared to what it could be.
I'll say too, one thing that gets people in trouble when they start to accept responsibility is there is this other thing on the other side that's the equivalent to boundaries, which is expectation.
Oh, yeah.
In a 20-year study on happiness, the only thing that they could figure out that really was a determiner of happiness, and it wasn't success, it was just expectation, where the person's expectation is. And when you start to accept responsibility for your thoughts, responsibility for your actions, the energy you bring to a room, the perspective you have, when you accept responsibility for all that, your expectations of yourself start to rise. You can get in a trap that if you expect others to have that same expectation, you'll be very unhappy. And if you think about any time you've been really unhappy, it was because it was an unmet expectation.
Yeah, because you make a movie in your head. One of the things that I found out was by not to judge, not to have any expectations. And when I do that, it's like 1,000-pound weight came off my shoulders. When I'm start getting inside of my head and all this stuff, it just gets in the way and leads to not being happy. And I didn't understand that. There's a guy in Bulgaria we've been working with for the internet marketing and stuff for a long, long time. I can remember we had a mastermind group together, and he goes, I have no expectations for anything, for anyone. I go, how the hell can you live like that with no expectations? And he was right. He was way, way ahead of that. Don't have any expectations, and you can't get let down.
Yeah, an expectation in a way is an entitlement, right?
Really?
Well, yeah, you feel like you're entitled to a certain
this
thing.
outcome, right?
So you expect somebody to show up on time, or you expect somebody to contribute and do something. Mm-hmm. You expect somebody to, behave in a certain way.
Yeah,
that's an entitlement, and those entitlements or expectations will make you miserable.
Right.
So what I have kind of found is having high expectations of yourself, but low expectations of others is the key to happiness. And if we just carry this over to a business thing, right, is like, how many times have we seen, or even, have we started a business and then, 6 months in, you run out of money and you're miserable and depressed. And then what happens over time is you're like, well, I'll start that business, but 6 months in, I'm going to run out of money. Your expectation changed. So you'll get more capital when you start, or you just know that things aren't going to go right. And so you don't expect them to go right. And you're much more successful at navigating the bumps in the road because you don't expect it to be easy. You don't expect people to do what they say they're going to do. You don't expect to always be capitalized and not run out of money. You don't expect the market to stay the way that it is right now. And so expectations are a big part of locus of control, in the sense that you have to balance things with boundaries and expectations. And the most exciting moment in your life is when you accept responsibility for all things. In that bucket of all things is your expectations. You control your expectations. And if you learn how to control them, you learn how to be happy.
A lot less stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about Gen Z? Where are we at with these youngins? I know we had a big thing with the millennials. Now it's the Gen Z. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think about this sort of thing more in a global sense.
Yes.
Like, we don't prioritize education. We're raising kids with low self-esteem. The amount of effort that we're putting into that is pretty low. We're allowing it to get away from us, and like, I would personally overfund education. I think the one thing for the American dream to work and people to not have learned helplessness is having an education system that meets the needs of those kids, has after school programs. You know, so many kids come from broken homes. Mom and dad are working 2 jobs, they're working all the time. And the more we cut back after school programs, the bigger the classroom size, the less the school system is in touch with where those kids are now, the more we're raising kids that are entitled, but also have an external locus of control, and they're miserable. Like, the amount of kids that have anxiety and they're giving it a name. So they're walking around like, they're carrying this thing, like, I've got anxiety, and it becomes a part of their identity. And that's happening on our watch. And we're so distracted in politics with Epstein and all this other stuff that we don't address just the basic fundamentals of education. And I've got tons of books in the library on how the education system here was created by the Rockefellers and all that. Like,
that's right.
It was created to make workers for factories.
That's right. Factory workers.
It hasn't changed much.
Industrial age. Well, we're in a different era. I think we should definitely change our education
It's not a priority. We don't prioritize it. And so we're leaving all this stuff to chance. And, I had this conversation with my mom the other day where she's like, oh, these guys in New York, they're socialists, they're communists. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But the thing is, like, if you grow up in that city and you can't afford an apartment and you can't afford groceries, you get learned helplessness. And you start to externalize control to the fact that it's corrupt and the government, things aren't fair, and the rich are getting richer. And you create this narrative because you feel helpless. You feel like no matter how hard you work, you can't get ahead.
I gotta say, in America, we're still a country where you can get ahead. I've been to other places in the world where you don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of ever getting.
Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah. But we're losing that because we're not creating a fair, like, if the kids in Brentwood get the same education as the kids in Compton, it's a different world. But that isn't how it is. Your education is determined by the zip code and the income of the area you live in.
Yeah.
And to sell the American dream, a part of that is belief. And whether the beliefs are real or not, we have to accept responsibility for just the idea that democracy and the American dream only exists if people believe in it. And if they're not believing in it, we have to rethink our approach.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the challenge for Gen Z. They feel like there's no future for them. So right now they feel like there's no future.
And we're allowing anxiety and all this other stuff.
We're not changing the curriculum in the colleges for where we're actually headed.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, think about all these kids that have $200,000, $300,000 in student loans, and they come out and they're replaced by AI.
Yeah.
I mean, these people that have written the code now are replaced by the thing they created.
They knew that 20 years ago that this was going to happen. DARPA is 30 to 50 years ahead. If they knew that this was going to happen, they could have changed our curriculum in that time frame to to have the kids ready for this new generation. Of
the more
technology.
external people's locus of control, the easier it is to spin them up about Epstein, to spin them up about,
That's all noise. That's not signal.
but it works. People get it. People
the politicians
are
are like, most of what they do is noise, and signal is like what you should be working on. You should, like, who cares about Epstein and all this shit?
Just think about the cults they've built with, you're either the left or the right, and if you everything on the left, you got to take it all, or you're out.
Yeah.
You're a right wing
All or nothing.
crazy person. If you don't agree with everything, they're the new cults, the right and the left.
Yeah, they are indeed.
And those people have very low self-esteem. They have external locus of control, and the way you control them is by spinning up more chaos, spinning up a different narrative.
I want to talk about respect and people disrespecting you, and what people say and how you let these words affect you. People can go and they can push your buttons if you react to the words that they say. The best thing that you can do in those situations is be dead calm, because it says more about the person insulting you than it does about the person. Take parents, for an instance. You get one parent and they're insulting the other parent in front of the child. That parent doesn't realize that they're insulting their child, because half of them is either the mother or the father. And they say negative stuff about the husband or the wife. And the reality of the situation is, it's just, it says more about them, a lot about them. And why would you want to insult your child day after day after day and tear them down? And they don't even realize that they're doing that. And
imagine what that does to your self-esteem.
Yeah. Oh, it wrecks it. And then, internal locus of control. One of the things Christopher Combs taught me, he goes, if you're a parent and you say, I'm really proud of you, and that's okay to say that every once in a while, but what's more important is to say, you should be very proud of yourself. Because if you say you should be proud of yourself, you're building internal locus of control. If you say that, hey, dad or mom is proud of you, it's okay every once in a while. That's external locus of control. And now you're building a child who wants to be a people pleaser and validation, seeks approval, instead of being having their own identity.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
To the people being able to affect you, is I heard an analogy when I was really young of when somebody's insulting you, imagine like they're throwing a plate.
Mm-hmm.
If you catch the plate, now you have to do something with the plate. But if you don't catch it, they're the dick that threw the plate on the floor.
Just me.
Yeah.
That's me. Absolutely.
Don't catch the plate.
Don't catch the plate.
And like you said, it says more about them.
Yeah. And I was taught by some smart people about how to remain dead calm in high conflict situations. Pretty cool.
You're really good at it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting better. Yeah. Well, anything else that you'd like to touch base with? Because this has been I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while, and you're here. So anything else that you'd like to talk about or say?
No, I think we covered it. Hope we gave a lot of value and some stuff to think about.
Yeah.
That's the intention.
And starting a conversation. And if people want to, anyone listening here, by the way, if you come out of the traditional marketplace, I can guarantee you 100% that these books will change your life if you apply them. If you don't apply them and it just bounces off of you, you'll plant seeds in your brain, and when you're 50 or 60 or at the right time, something happens, all this will come to light, and you go, oh, now I get it. So how does someone get your book? Where can they get I Am Leader?
IamLeaderBook.com.
IamLeaderBook.com. And then you've also got an app where people go into. I know that a lot of our team members are on the app with you, and you give weekly lessons and talks and everything.
Once you get the book, there's a QR code. You scan that, it takes you to the app, and then You request access and we let you in. You have to buy the book to get in.
And then there's also a seminar, and you're like between, I don't know if I should keep doing the seminars or you must keep doing the seminars. They are so valuable. I'll keep bringing people in, and there's a seminar as well. And if you put together a group, I'm sure Chris will be more than happy to give the 2-day seminar. It's a lot.
It should be 4 days.
It takes a lot. It takes this to a whole nother level. And we had a lot of people who've taken your course and read the books and been through the seminar, and it totally changed the trajectory of our company and the trajectory of their lives as well. And the ones that it didn't work on, they stick out like a sore thumb. Man, do they ever stick out like a sore thumb? And I didn't realize that part of this teaching was also when you change the culture, it's also going to ferret out the red flags.
Yeah, it's an architecture
Yeah.
with a language. There's a language in there too.
Yep. So what was that URL again to get the book?
IamLeaderbook.com.
IamLeaderbook.com. All right. Is it on Amazon yet or anything?
It is on Amazon.
It is on Amazon as well. All right, Chris, thank you for your time today, and I'm glad you were on the show. And I hope that a lot of the folks who are listening to this show today have taken away actual items that they can instill and put into their lives right away and become better humans.
That's the hope.
Yes.
You can do it. We believe in you.
We do believe in you. If we can do it, you can do it.
That is for sure, because we're
That's right.
stubborn.
we were stubborn, ornery little boogers before, and now we're chill and have a better understanding of ourselves and other people.
It's worth the work, right?
It is worth the work. And by the way, I will say, if you're a business leader, you have to understand yourself and other people if you're going to be successful. And the more that you understand other people and yourself, will be indicative of how far you go and how successful you are. It's always the people.
Starts with you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.